just wait for few minutes because Mr. Cedric has to join. Just we'll see if at all he joins. And thank you so much for joining in this wonderful session.
I hope everything is all right. The viewing is okay.
Yeah.
And the sound quality is okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, Marilo, you will be called in a typically Indian style of calling you. I hope you are okay with it. I'm sure.
Perfect. That's perfect. As you can see, I chose a special screen for the edition tonight just to make people understand I'm not in the Indian time slot.
Yeah. But definitely making us miss Paris, though. No, it's been almost 2.5 years or maybe 3 years I've been there.
Yeah, I miss India too.
Hi, Amitava. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Abhirami, you are going to introduce us before we go for a live session.
Yeah. I'm the track moderator. I'll be introducing you and then I will go on mute and I'll stop my video also. So the session is, for the session for you, I think I hope you know the timing. It's 8:30 to 9:30 Indian time. So at the end of the time before 10 minutes to 9:30, I will join in. So you can plan accordingly and wrap up the session during that time and give me a few minutes in the end to talk a little bit and then we can close the session. I'm just waiting. We'll see just 3 minutes more. I've asked if Mr. Cedric could join. If he joins, we can start. Otherwise, on time, we'll just start off.
Now, for clarity, I'm asking you that 9:30 is cut off. Okay. So
Yeah.
we need to stop about 5 minutes before, leaving 5 minutes for you. Okay, to conclude.
I just need two to 3 minutes. That's enough.
Okay.
I'll be coming on screen when it is 2 to 3 minutes. That indicates you, like the session has to come to a close.
No, we have only 1 hour time, and Marilo knows about it. On this topic, probably we need 3-4 hours.
Probably we'll have a session separately. In future, exclusive a day we can have it.
No, because with Marilo, we discussed more than 3 months. Almost at a stretch. Every day, in person or over a call. The discussion how to bring Puzo Citroën to India. So I'm sure all her, the background, what she has, and giving the time of 1 hour, I requested Marilo that we need to answer very quickly. And then the same thing with Amitava and then Kalyan as well. Cedric, I don't know much about it, but I'm sure he would be of similar type. He needs more time.
Yeah, I will try to compact all that I have to say, all that I wish to share with you tonight.
Just a minute more. Yeah, it's time. So can we have, yeah. Good evening and thank you for joining us today for an interesting topic. This is Abhirami Vivek welcoming all of you on behalf of Women Economic Forum 2021, and I take the pleasure of introducing the eminent speakers of this panel. Mr. Prabhakar Kadapa, Partner and Director, Mudita Strat Consultants, India. Mr. Kalyan C. Kodivila, Managing Director, Etio Automobiles Private Limited. Ms. Mary Lord, Senior Executive, Innovation and International Development, Mobility Industry, Deputy Mayor, and Mr. Amitwa Sinha, CEO and MD, Linamar India Private Limited. Without taking much of time, I would like to hand over this platform to you to discuss about auto industry, EV, the next frontier. Thank you so much. The stage is all yours.
Thank you, Abhirami, and good evening and good afternoon to the panelists and the viewers, wherever they are viewing at this point of time. Welcome to this session. And thanks to Women Economic Forum for their annual Meet 2021 for giving us this opportunity to discuss our thoughts on this very concurrent and a topic which is of growing importance. In my own way, it's called as a disruptive topic at this point of time. Because there's a growing concern on environment protection and emissions, basically hydrocarbons from the ICE-based vehicle. Just to start the discussion, EVs in the passenger space actually appeared in the early 20th century, but not find favors due to high cost, low speed, low tech on the battery side. However, especially on the railways, on the public transport, the research continued, a suitable technological advancement has been made. In the beginning of 21st century, when the concerns on the environmental protection and emissions made more prominent, then again, the entire industry started looking at it. Into the EV space probably could be an answer. Having said that, it's just not EV, it's also an alternate fuels. At the time, and the technology progress, would be able to say which one of them would take the front seat. And if you look at it from 2010 to 2020, so far cumulatively 10 million units were sold, either battery electric vehicle or hybrid in this domain of passenger vehicles at this point of time. The early entrants are Mitsubishi came with MIEV, Nissan came with the Leaf, GM came with Chery Bolt, Stellantis, which is currently PSA, formerly it is called PSA Class Fiat. It's called Stellantis. Stellantis is the world's third largest automotive, and Renault Nissan. All these giants have started coming with their EVs and hybrids. And of course, I'm not leaving Tesla to say that the game changer in this. In 2009 to 2015, the 6 years, just 1 million vehicles have been sold. From 2015 to 2021, 10 million vehicles have been sold. That shows how the rapid progress is taking place in this domain. One example is Tesla Model 3 has sold cumulatively 1 million cars during this, up to this time, June 2021 from the launch. It was launched in 2017. To be precise, less than 3.5 years, 1 million cars, one model has been sold. So taking the clue, auto giants from EU, USA, Japan, China announced larger investments and cutoff dates for their ICE production. In India, we are progressing more cautiously. Some rapid progress is envisaged in two-wheeler and three-wheeler to begin with, whereas the pass car and the LCV slightly behind than what is expected. But as we move forward, the time will tell how quickly India is able to embrace the EV or alternate fuel. The time will tell. So to kickstart the discussion, I would like to put a few questions as a start point for a conversation. Probably we can build much more. I would like to put the entire set of questions probably in 5 buckets. One will be demand side and market response, infrastructure, technology and investments, human capital, and the government incentives and future expectation. This is the 5 buckets if you look at it, probably. I would like to start on demand side, and I would like to ask the question to Marie Lo. The reason is normally Indian automotive takes the clue from Europe or US or Japan. So we have a wonderful personality before us who has an excellent exposure to the EV domain and the automotive. So the first question goes to Marie Lo. And the question is, how does the European market is evolving on BEV front to meet a target of over 50% of pass cars produced by 2030? I hope
Well,
clear. Go ahead, please.
yes, this is very clear. Thank you very much, Mr. Kadapa, for this invitation. I'm really glad to be with you all tonight. I will talk a little bit about Europe. So first, maybe a brief comment about the total auto market today in Europe. Due to the pandemic situation and the semiconductor shortage, the European market lost 25% of its volumes versus 2019. So yes, EV and BEVs are progressing, but today the global market situation is quite tough. So today the BEV market share in Europe is around 10% of PCs plus LCVs. And we still have two main issues to grow the share of these BEVs in Europe. The first one is the affordability of the BEV technology. What we see here is that BEV sales are developing today mostly in high GDP countries of the Union, over 46,000 euros, around 39 lakhs, and 10 out of 27 EU states are still below 3% market share. So incomes of the population is a main factor today in Europe for the development of BEV. The second issue is the accessibility to charging points. There is a serious lack still today in charging infrastructure, with only 220,000 charging points in the Union today. With the expected growth of the BEV market, experts estimate that the need by 2030 could be 6 million. So you can see there's a big step to climb. And well, the auto industry is strongly acting to reach the target with 3 main goals. From the OEMs, what we see is that they want to still lower costs, because BEV versions are still very costly. Second goal is still to attract customers, and in this market shrinking, it's not that easy. And the third main goal is to get independence from Asia on supply of batteries, which is a geopolitical topic, very an economic one, of course, important. For example, in 2018, Europe produced only 36 gigawatt hour, which corresponded at that time to 6% of the needs for the BEV mobility. The target for 2030 is to cover all the needs and be able also to export some batteries. And we have today more than 20 new plants project to reach a 600 gigawatt hour capacity. So the road is in front of us, but it is still long.
The same, further to understand, you have a target of over 50%. I heard various announcements have been made by the big automotive players in the Europe.
Yes.
So do you think that it's quite possible, achievable, to get over 50%, because there's huge investments are happening today in terms of battery, in terms of the various technologies, in terms of infrastructure. That's what we read. So I just wanted to understand your perspective.
Well, actually, this summer, the European Commission proposed a plan which is called Fit for 55. So this is a future regulation trying to impose more severe targets on the CO2 reduction. And well, of course, all big players want to follow the path and these very challenging targets. But they point out one important point about the network availability for charging points, meaning it's like a little bit chicken and eggs. They can and they will make all their efforts to get to the market the right products at the right moment, but they need also to have the infrastructure to for the customer to be able to use these new products. So for the moment, the planning is not yet totally fixed and defined, but well, the trend is here. So will it be 50% in 2030 or 2035? Actually, it's not the point. Everybody needs to put all its energy on the topic. Will it be big players, but also smaller ones?
Thank you. On the same typical question to India is concerned, I would like to ask Cedric, because he represents a company which is into financing of the EV vehicles. What do you think when India will come to the level of 50% of two-wheeler, three-wheeler pass cars in your mind?
Thanks for asking the question. Good evening to all of the panelists and everybody listening to us. It's a pleasure to be here. I think my opinion is that India has set a very ambitious target, and it takes a bold mind to set that type of target, and whatever is achieved within that framework is a positive. India is ahead, I would say, of many countries in actually taking steps to do this. At the end of the day, setting up a target is easy, but the implementation comes down to what policies will do as well as what the industry will do. There's a lot that has already happened, which is very positive in the Indian space to make this happen. From our perspective as a financier, we see a lot of movement in this space, positive ones. We see a lot of acceptance of the products that have been on road. We've been deploying vehicles since 2016, and I would say we've reached a point where acceptance, even in smaller cities, are quite good enough now. So to answer that question is moving forward, I think the belief will only grow stronger, and we would all head towards achieving the targets that have been set out. And yes, it is very, very feasible with all of the things that are happening in the market.
Thank you. Kalyan, do you have the similar opinion, or you have an opinion which could be different?
I mean, I do agree with what Cedric has said. However, I think the adoption in India is going to be kind of, within sub-segments of these EVs, so these adoption rates, and that when we reach the 50% target is going to be different for different of these sub-segments. And what I mean by that is, if you see the two-wheelers and three-wheelers seems to be the early adopters today. Three-wheeler market, where we operate in, the estimates are that 20% of the vehicles sold today are electric. So that percentage is supposed to increase to 40% by 2025, and then so on and so forth. But if you see LCV segment, right, it's almost close to zero, right? And if you see medium to heavy truck segment, it's definitely zero, right? Of course, the battery technologies and charging infrastructure and so many other things have to play a role in helping those segments to kind of grow as well. however, if you also see the charging infrastructure versus the number of vehicles on the road, it's always this chicken and egg thing, right? Similar, not too dissimilar to what people said about the success of, say, Android operating system versus iOS. People said you need more apps to sell more of these Android phones, and then they say people will develop more apps once you have more phones. So similar to that, even in this EV space, people have always said, oh, the number of charging stations is actually a big gating factor, and then charging stations have been set up, and the average utilization of charging stations is roughly about 8% to 10% in this country of the ones that are out there. I mean, I believe the total number of charging stations is somewhere around 500 or 600 across the country today, and they're being utilized at about 8 to 10%. And apparently, they need to have utilizations about 30 to 40% to even break even. So I think to kind of summarize, right? And I see that these adoption rates will be different in different subsegments of these EVs. I think two-wheelers, three-wheelers have kind of taken the lead in that, and then you'll see LCVs and then MCVs as well. I mean, medium and heavy trucks. But the key to this is going to be financing, right? I think that's where Cedric is actually playing a good role. Of course. The financing also has to happen not only to the EVs manufactured by large OEMs, but also manufactured by startups like us, right? I guess we'll be willing to talk to Cedric about that offline. But it's relatively easy, it seems, to finance a vehicle made by large OEMs, but whereas most of the innovation seems to be coming from startups, right? So I think we have to figure out how to share the risk and have these open heart-to-heart discussions, and then figure out a way to finance vehicles made by us as well, which will only increase the penetration of EVs.
Yeah, thanks, Kalyan, because we'll go into the further depth. You stand on the same point, is that there are the retrofits are going to be here. We have seen the experience of how CNG retrofits been successful. Similarly, do you see the EV retrofits, especially for the three-wheeler and the LCV and fast cars? Do you see a big market for retrofit? Does it accelerate the OEMs to manufacture more and more original equipment? What is your thought on it?
You're asking me?
Yeah, Kalyan.
Yes. Sorry. Yes. As you know, we started out retrofitting vehicles first, and because we thought that's the best way to kind of get to know the sector, understand the behavior of these vehicles once deployed in actual customer routes. So if you see our LCV product today, it's actually a retrofit product, and then we will be transitioning into our own product in a very soon. Retrofitting is not that easy, right? I mean, so retrofitting business is more of a services business, than being an OEM. So if you have an OEM DNA, which obviously you do, I think it's services is a very different. I mean, retrofitting is a very different beast altogether, right? But for people like us, for startups, who tend to be a little bit more nimble and eager to learn, hungry and all that, for us, retrofitment actually helped us to learn quite a bit, and then that's going to be our market entry strategy into each of these subsegments. But over the long run, I believe it's going to be very challenging. Of course, even the policy also discouraged us a little bit because they actually removed FAME subsidies for retrofit vehicles. So we had to move away into our own brand new vehicles. But now there are new proposals, that are being floated around in the market. Say, for instance, Delhi announced retrofitting policy, right? Where they want to encourage people to retrofit their vehicles, that are 10 years old or something like that. I think we have to wait and watch how it's going to pan out, because the life of the vehicle, the quality of the vehicle, and then just the nature of the business, in terms of business model, how scalable it is, right? CNG retrofitting is a lot more easier than actually doing an electrification, right? Pretty much you take the heart out of the engine and then you kind of give it a new heart, right? It's almost like a heart transplant plus. So I think the jury is out there. I still don't have a view on that. Yeah, even though we have started retrofitting vehicles and then we kind of transition into our own vehicles. Yeah.
Thank you, Kalyan. And I'll ask the same question again, coming back to Cedric, that vehicle financing. Is there such facility for retrofit vehicles? You're on mute.
Yeah, sorry. Very good question, Prabhakar. Early, I'd give an experience. Early in 2015, when we started, we financed about 10 vehicles for a small company. And that was largely because we believed that the retrofit market would mimic what had happened in the CNG retrofit. I think I must say that it wasn't the best experience for us. The reason particularly is that I don't think the technology was ready. We're dealing with, just to clarify, our segment is light EVs, right? So largely 3 and 2 wheelers. A lot of these drivers were looking forward to getting a new vehicle, and I think that was the experience they were looking for. The company that we're working with did not provide that experience. Not to say that retrofit doesn't work, because I still believe that there is, there are 500,000 vehicles changing every year, or 500,000 vehicles going out of market, which are potential vehicles for retrofit. And what you see in the market is really a shift from tier 1 cities to tier 2 cities, or tier 2 cities to tier 3 cities. So there is a huge opportunity there, which is lagging. What I'd say is that the policies don't favor it, because FAME subsidies were not applicable for it. Secondly, the drivers didn't get the experience they were expecting. But if you could package a retrofit vehicle as an almost new vehicle, so redo the body, redo simple things like the brakes, etc., I think there's a large potential there. And for us as a company, it's something that we look in the future, but we want the right issue there. If it can be repaired, then we would provide the financing, getting finance to the right people at the right time. So I'll just pause there.
Okay, thank you. I think there is slightly Wi-Fi issue has a bit of interrupted. I would like to ask the question to Amitabh Sinha. From your experience and the way we are talking today, we are talking EVs into passenger vehicles, EVs into commercial vehicles. From your viewpoint of view, the agriculture, construction equipment, these domains will be left over, or at some point in time, they join the forces to go for alternate fuel. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for asking the question. I think, I don't think that the construction equipment will be, left behind. So I already see that a lot of construction equipment and, aerial work platforms are already working and active on this area. On the agriculture, there are challenges because of the environment in which they operate, versus you are talking about a battery electric vehicle which needs an atmosphere and protection from mud and humidity. So there will be challenges. However, I also see, surprisingly, that there are at least 2 startup companies in India already who are trying their best to work on the lower segment of the low power, smaller tractor segment on the EV. Even established player up in North, they in fact officially launched product and saying that their product is ready. So I don't think they are leaving any stone unturned to capture the sentiment of EV, or as in your words, the disruption that you talked about. So they are trying. So eventually it will happen, but I think as Maria also said, the chicken and egg story. So here also it is a catch-22. What need to come first? Is it the government subsidies, incentives, or a clear direction, or the market is ready? So that's kind of a catch-22.
Thank you, Amitama. I'm just jumping into infrastructure, and Marilu has already talked a bit about already the charging stations and the nuances connected to the Europe. So I would like to ask her, we used to hear almost 6 months to 1 year back too much about the battery swapping, battery disposal. These kind of things we used to hear. Up late, we are hearing less about the swapping mechanism and the difficulties in disposal. What are your thoughts?
Well, on this technology side, what we see here in Europe is that today most automakers propose native battery packs with a durability of 10 to 11 years, which corresponds to the average life cycle of a car in Europe. So, and in addition to that, to reassure customers, the OEMs add long-lasting warranty on batteries because the future is not certain yet. All the researches about swapping batteries, battery disposal, new services, today, well, we don't hear about them a lot, and they are kind of overtaken by the fast charging technology that is now, well, is available technically and will be available on the roads in few years, especially on highways. On the charging network front, the EU plan will require a big acceleration because, like I said today, we are not on the good momentum for that, and to reach the needs for the future BEV market. What we can see, nevertheless, is that domestic and private charging is the most convenient and is developing very fast where it is possible. And it's not possible everywhere, obviously. So public infrastructure is key. And well, I can testify also with my role of deputy mayor of my small town near Paris. Like many actors are fighting to win the pot. In Europe, you find traditional petrol and electricity providers. You find also network builders, equipment suppliers, and a lot of different startups. Some of them are present on different parts of the value chain of distributing electricity for cars. But for all of them, profitability is not clear yet. And for this new business, and actors very often partner to limit their exposure. Today, we still have, well, we have low margins on electricity in Europe, and we still have small volumes of charging sessions. So, well, all these actors are very active, and they are all betting on the future. But today, we all know that they offer prices, well, selling prices, service prices below their true cost structure. So they bet on the future. It won't last, and we'll see. Actually, on the electricity, I don't know how providing. I don't know exactly how it is in India, but in Europe you have a lot of differences with France. Well, betting on nuclear electricity, Germany betting on renewable electricity, which is well, more wind and solar energy. So I don't know in India what is the mix of energy, but this mix is also very important to be able to provide all the electricity the union will need in the future.
Yeah, India is concerned, it's more on the solar now, but Kalyan is the master of that particular aspect. Probably he can throw some light.
Right. Yeah, I guess, until recently, I was running a renewable energy company. Over the last 10 years of my career, after I moved to India from the United States, I was in renewable energy. Now I'm into electric vehicles. Yes. So, one of the keys which a lot of the policymakers and even the colleagues, in my new EV field, seems to ignore is that we not only need electricity to charge all these electric vehicles, but also we need good quality of electricity to actually charge these electric vehicles, right? So what I mean by that is, reliable power, stronger grid, to actually be able to transport electricity from pockets of good, renewable sources to pockets of demand, right? So if you see even the U.S. infrastructure bill, we just got passed in the United States, they have allocated significant resources in strengthening the grid to support electrification of not only transport, but also electrification of other segments of the economy as well, manufacturing, so on and so forth. So in India, we are predominantly solar. Solar has been a big push in renewable energy. And then, as you know, I was into wind as well. Both these sources of energy are not exactly, like nuclear, for instance, they're not base load, right? They chose to generate, when they feel like, and then they tend to be a little bit moody as well, right? Depending on the weather and all that. So building electric transport market just based on renewable energy today is challenging, right? Of course, but however, there's a lot of storage coming in, a lot of new storage technologies coming in, which will make even these intermittent sources more reliable. That will help electrification of not only transport but also other sectors of the economy.
Thank you. I would like to put a question to Amitawa. There are various reports are coming. The EV journey and forecast for India is concerned by 2030. One of the latest one I was able to go through, it says that within the automotive domain, different categories will have as high as 75% of vehicles produced will be of EV, as low as below 5%, some category. In other words, let me state extremely, you talk about the three-wheeler, most probably the two-wheelers would touch even 75 to 80%. And whereas the heavy vehicles and medium duty vehicles, probably sub 5% penetration, and pass cars, the estimated is 15%. Given such kind of projections are going to happen, as a component industry captain, what do you think, how Indian component industry is moving towards localization? Otherwise, the price barrier is going to be there. We're not able to be competitive. So what are your thoughts about the component industry getting up in terms of investment technology from your viewpoint?
Yeah, I think from your forecast or projection point of view, as Weissman says, predicting future is very easy. How accurate is a different story, right? So that's 70% for three-wheeler, 30% for two-wheelers. I think there are enablers. There are topics like, cost of ownership of a two-wheeler versus the running cost of the fuel that's increasing is a solid enabler for moving towards electrification for two-wheeler. The growing thoughts about sustainability, carbon emission in the educated population or population having, affordability is also an enabler. So obviously we cannot predict accurately until only future will say whether it is 30% or 70%. And in the same token, why the heavy commercial vehicle is 5%. Also on the basis of practicality of infrastructure for charging and others. But the drive is there, it is enabler, and therefore on the component industry side, I think we will say, as I see and I belong to a company which heavily depends upon ICE engines so far back, even if I go back, say, 3 years back, I would say our portfolio globally heavily act on, ICE engine or driveline. But we see a clear shift happening. We are also moving towards electrification. When I say we, not only our company, I'm talking about in general, the auto component manufacturing. But I also see that people are kind of cautiously optimistic. Then nobody is going overboard. And that is why you see the concept of, which Kalyan also talked about retrofit thing happening, so that every OEM customer also, in absence of a solid product, nicely developed and integrated to the vehicle, just to be a me too kind of situation, is taking an easy path of getting to retrofit. And I think Kalyan also mentioned and Cedric also mentioned the serviceability, the impact on the warranty of the vehicle that we're talking about from the OEM. A lot of things are going to be a barrier. So I would say that there is a focus from all of the automotive companies, component manufacturer towards this electrification and watching this disruption very closely and keeping, staying very on top of it, but with the caution. It's not that let's go all out. It's kind of a cautiously optimistic, I would say.
So continue to be on the same question, Amitava. India is exporting auto components over 18 billion. Probably this is the 2018 number. The latest number could be different because of the pandemic. I'm not considering at this point of time. And the plan is to double or triple in the next 5 to 10 years time frame. That's what the projections, again, the soothsayers are saying it. So do you see a lot of export opportunities from India for vehicles as well as for the components?
I think there will be a point where in a short term, there will be impact, okay? But India is always very frugal and quick, agile entrepreneur kind of mindset. And I'm sure that in Indian automotive component and supplier base will add up. There may be a short-term dip in their impact in their business, but they will figure it out and do something quickly.
Yeah, I'm sure, since I come from the similar domain, so I would appreciate, but I don't know whether our colleague Marie Lo would agree, because she has a wonderful experience with the Indian component makers. So what are your thoughts on it? You agree with us or you disagree?
Yeah, it will be interesting to hear that. Yeah.
Well, maybe I can talk a little bit about what is arriving today in Europe on that point, and especially maybe the impact on ICE suppliers. If you want, maybe to comment, Prabhakar, maybe later on.
Yeah. Okay. We can take it to later on. I'm sure. I respect that. So I would like, because again, also seeing the time. So I would like to understand from you on the developments in battery technology, because the minute if you talk about lithium ion, it is again available geographically, few continents and few countries in specific. That means, would it be similar to the story of fossil fuel, or the battery technology would change to a level where the raw material is available most part of the world, so that self-reliance of each country could be there? So what could be the what are the developments that are happening, and what are your views on this particular topic? Marie, this is the question to you.
Sorry, excuse me. I thought the question was for Amitava. Well, actually, my personal views on that is that the technology is not stabilized yet. What we see in Europe, you see all the discussions about BEVs, what is the real CO2 level from the well to wheel for a BEV, all the discussions that are on that point, all the efforts that are made by other people on, for example, hydrogen solutions. and so on and so forth. Well, not only in Europe, but actually also a lot in Asia, in Japan, Korea, and China. They are also very active on the hydrogen front. So I think the technology is not stabilized yet, and maybe what we hear about solid batteries and so on and so forth will change. I hope the requirements in rare earth and things like this, because actually it would be maybe difficult to rely on one specific component, especially coming from China. And I think it would be a pity for all of us, including Chinese people.
Thank you. I have a question to Kalyan. This is on the level of investments in the EV domain. An entrepreneur would put, when the technology is not completely matured, that means there is an evolving takes place.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on it?
Right. I mean, as with most sectors and most entrepreneurs, we tend to be a little bit of an insane bunch, right? So we take a lot of chances and then we hope for the best, right? So sticking to that theme, right? I think we took a plunge. Now we are hoping for the best, and it's, but at the end of the day, right? If you take a step back, look at the whole ecosystem that plays a role in this EV, it's a teamwork, right? Sometimes charging guys do much better job of creating a charging infrastructure, and then the EVs lag behind, and then sometimes we kind of do volumes, and then the charging infrastructure catches up. So with respect to that, I mean, we people like us take a plunge, because we are California tree huggers, right? I mean, so we just love this sector. And I just wanted to touch upon one of the questions you asked earlier about the adoption of electric vehicles in different segments, right? 3-wheelers, 4-wheelers, and then medium and high and heavy commercial trucks. If you see the pollution that happens from transport sector in India, diesel vehicles, I mean the medium and large commercial vehicles, they consume more than a third of the diesel fuel, but contribute to over 74-75% of the particulate and CO2 emissions in this country. Right. So if you want to solve CO2 problem, I guess we actually, so the intuition says that we got to go top down, right? Go solve the problem of medium and large commercial vehicles. You have tackled a big chunk of carbon emissions, right? But however, the technology goes the other way, right? Because of all the limitations with respect to batteries, and the costs and a bunch of other things. But as an optimist, right? I think technology will always catch up. I always never bet against technology. Probably that's also because of my Silicon Valley roots. So I think technology will catch up, and then until then, we'll keep on taking these crazy bets, do our best, and hope rest of the sector, comes together, including financing, right? Cedric has to really play a big role. I mean, and his colleagues as well in making sure that there's financing in place, which is always important, right? At the end of the day, especially in commercial vehicles and even passenger vehicles. Yeah.
So the extension of that question to Cedric is that you have more than 3,500 customers at this point of time, or the clients whom you have financed to them. What do they say about the EV technology, affordability, and currently available technology, affordability, and profitability for their business? What is their voice?
Thanks very much, Parag. I think that's a very good question. So I think the problem is more in perception than reality. When we put the maths on paper, and when for the 3,000, well, we're now a little bit over 4,000 clients. There is profitability. There is clear profitability in driving EVs, and that was the primary reason why we chose the light electric vehicles, because today it already makes sense to switch to light electric than driving non-electric. The total cost of ownership is lower. Your daily operations cost is lower, so the driver ends up with more money in his hands, and that's really what they look at. But to talk about how you scale it, right? It's really a market that works with word of mouth, There is a lot of our drivers aren't on, well, a lot of them are on Facebook, but a lot of them aren't on Instagram and places like that where you could just digitally market and reach all of them. It's one driver referring his brother, referring his cousin, talking about the vehicle to his pack of other drivers and them picking it up. So I think about the profitability, it's clearly there. About the products that are on road, yeah, including what Kalyan is building, there is already a clear part that vehicle stays there. I think there's a lot of fear around how the battery will perform. But we've, so the first vehicles we finance are now 4 years in, and none of them we've not replaced, besides the vehicles that traditionally have problems with their batteries, we've not replaced any battery because of the vehicle, the batteries dying out, right? So I think it's more around the perception, but the business case is very clear for the driver. It is profitable both in two-wheelers and three-wheelers. It's a matter of spreading the word. And personally, I believe it requires a critical mass or a critical number of vehicles on road to get that word out. And that is really what we're pushing for.
Thank you. It's quite encouraging. I'm just jumping to from human capital point of view. The question is to Amitava Sinha. We keep understanding that the progress of EV and alternate fuel is going to bring a lot of fundamental change the way the automotives are being manufactured today. Here, the factory worker skill and the shop floor engineers' ability, engineering skills are going to come into picture. If so, do you think the Indian workforce would quickly be able to embrace the new technologies, and simultaneously the universities and other educational institutions, are they supporting in this game plan? I would like to hear from you.
Yeah, I think if we have to adapt, the complete ecosystem has to kind of jump in and participate. The organizations have to take the lead and make sure that that they are developing the competency within their within their teams, within their employee base. And at the same time, I think the educational institute also plays a significant role to make the student, the future workforce, getting ready for the technology that's going to be, running going forward. So I see that it has to be kind of a team game again, that everybody needs to work on it. And sometime we see that whenever a sudden change and stratum jump is happening, there is a time of chaos where there is a demand of the right kind of people that we need, but we don't have that much. And then slowly we catch up. So I think now that we know that it's kind of coming, I think it is high time we should educate our workforce, and also from an organization point of view, and also from academics and institute also should include them in their curriculum planning to get ready, future ready workforce.
Sure. I was talking to a vice chancellor of one of the quite established universities in India. He was actually echoing the similar kind of feelings, what you said, that the universities are gearing up and will gear up to prepare the engineers of the future with the newer technologies and the newer gadgets, so that it doesn't come as difficult to adopt. I think that's what the university scholars have got the similar kind of understanding. So I would like to ask a question to Kalyan, that the current schemes like FAME2 and other government incentives are there. How far your organization is getting benefited by that and able to accelerate the EV?
Yeah, good question. Actually, I wish I was a moderator and I asked you this question, because you know quite a bit more about this than actually I do. So having said that, if you see in the three-wheeler space, right? There's almost a price parity between electric vehicles and then ICE engines. Thanks to the subsidy. If the subsidy was not in place, then it wouldn't be there. So it's clearly helping. And I think, they need to help a little bit more on the light commercial vehicles and a little bit even more on the larger commercial vehicles, as we go forward. And also, echoing in one of the points in Mr. Amitava said, is that, at the end of the day, this is a teamwork, right? So, I think bigger part of the team is actually, the customer, the end user, right? If you just look at the customer, we had 2 years of COVID in India, which unfortunately took lives of about, 450,000 people over a span of 2 years almost. But if you see the number of deaths on account of air pollution in India, estimated as per the United Nations report, is 2.5 million. So every year, right? And but yet, we spend money on lotions, these sanitizers, masks, and all that, and we don't seem to be doing much, on that front. So I guess, I kind of wanted to say that, because that always frustrates me. I don't know why,
Yeah, I think Kalyan, I have taken an easier role of being a moderator. I know it's tough to answer. So I'm asking the question to Marie-Lo. The automotive is more of a brick and mortar business because the industry is there right from 1895. So with the advancement of technologies and the agility and flexibilities are required today. So what do you think a woman entrepreneur role, and you see much greater than the past?
Well, I think they will be as great as they were in the past. I hope they will be more present in the industry, because, well, my experience is that women are often more resilient, and I think we will need all energy, and they can bring this special this special capacity of never stopping to improve, never stopping to bring new ideas. And well, actually, I'm sure young Indian women are very good at that.
Excellent. I think it's a good news to hear from you. That's great. Paucity of time, so I would like to ask each one of us to leave one important message to take it forward. So probably I would like to start with Kalyan. In summary, in sum, what is the message you would like to give?
Right. I think the EV adoption is here, and I think that's the reality that I think all of us have to embrace and then accept. Unfortunately, fortunately, it's kind of starting from bottom up. But as the more pollution happens at the top, right? The larger commercial vehicles and stuff like that, and we hope that the government and the other industry players help us tackle the technical challenges over there, with some incentives and then policies as well. Yeah.
Thank you. What about Cedric? Cedric, what is your view, your message?
Well, first of all, very impressed that we're having these conversations at this level. I think just to echo the words of Kalyan, we need more collaboration between government, industry, financiers, whoever is playing a part. So I really welcome such forums to connect. And Kalyan, definitely, I'll reach out to you after this so we can do something together.
Sure, of course.
And yeah, I believe that EVs are here to stay. We are already doing the talk. Now let's walk the walk. That would be my take. Excellent.
Amitava.
Yeah, I think I echo everybody what it says, and I think we have to embrace, whether it is disruption or so, but we have to embrace and therefore participate fully towards the change. And I hope that we will have a sustainable technology. Currently the EV that we have, there are a lot of limitations. There are a lot of concerns about how to dispose of the lithium batteries. Whether we are moving towards a monopoly versus versus the new technology of, it's the replacement of lithium batteries with say aluminum and water, right? So I hope that there will be more sustainable energy source available, get available, and I'm sure the technology will catch up.
Thank you. When I go to Mario, I would like to put two questions. One, again, taking you back slightly, 2025 European giants are saying that they will stop diesel vehicle production. In such a case, what happened to commercial vehicles? And second is your message on this platform. Please go ahead.
Well, actually, if OEM said they would stop diesel for LCVs, it's not their wish. It's to be compliant with the future regulation on LCV too, because the Fit to 55 will apply too for LCVs. And this market in Europe, but like in India, is even if the vehicles may be different, is totally TCO oriented, and it is essential to all the SMEs in the union. So today, well, OEM will stop diesel, but they will continue petrol or hybrid versions. They are still launching electric ones, but they are pleading for LCVs in particular, not only for their own business, but also for the importance and of this segment on the entire European economy. And so they explained the step today is too high for LCV, the new step required by the European Union. And they ask for flexibilities, like pooling volumes on emissions between PVs and LCVs, for example, or they ask also to review the planning of the new regulation adoption in this segment. And my message will be, my last message will be about affordability of mobility. Will it be automotive mobility or shared mobility, whatever it is? Because for me, mobility is the essence of freedom, and each one needs this to keep or to develop this freedom, and this is also a question of money. So I hope and I'm sure that all the intelligence and energies of the people working of the mobility of the future will be on having a sustainable one, of course, but also an affordable one.
Thank you. And Abhirami has come, and we just almost concluding, but the topic is so detailed, we need to go. From my side, only one comment is that in the short and midterm, basically, there will be fossil fuel, will not be a diesel, but more of gasoline. There will be EV, and there will be hybrid and also hydrogen. So all these technologies will take appropriate share of the market, depends upon the customer ultimately. Of course, the government regulations are always there, but again, customer need to come forward and to embrace it. What percentage it would be, the time will tell, but definitely all these 4 technologies will be in the forefront. Thank you very much. Thanks to all the panelists for their wonderful contribution. Now I leave the platform to Abhirami, please.
Thank you so much, Mr. Prabhakar. That was really wonderful, and I really learned something which I don't know about. And I would like to thank Mr. Cedric for joining in. Though I couldn't introduce him in the beginning since he wasn't there. He's the co-founder, CEO of Three Wheels United. Thank you so much for joining, sir. And I take this opportunity to announce the award that is given by Women Economic Forum to each one of you, Leader of the Decade. And the e-certificates will be mailed to you within a fortnight. And thank you so much for joining us. And I hope we will have a better session, like as Mr. Prabhakar wanted a long session, we can have a lot of discussion. Thank you so much for joining in. Great, have a great day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.